And now, a message from our sponsor, Flamingo. Every multifamily marketer wants to know what the next big thing will be. At the apartment department, we think that resident retention is the next big thing, which is why we're excited to have Flamingo as our podcast sponsor. Flamingo, founded by Jude Chai, is an all-in-one resident retention platform used by some of the top-performing communities in the country. And here's a fun little secret. If you see a community with 300 plus online reviews and 65% plus retention, there's a good chance they're using Flamingo. From automated renewal management and resident events to amenity bookings and even an AI concierge, Flamingo brings everything together in one sleek app that residents actually use. Learn more at getflamingo.com. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Apartment Department, the podcast for multifamily marketers by multifamily marketers. My name is Ann Baum. With me, as always, my co-host, Chris Johnson. And we have a very special guest with us today, Jillian Fikkert from Buckingham Companies. It's actually funny, we were just talking before the podcast because Jillian and I were kind of trying to pinpoint, like, when did we actually meet each other? It might have been 10 years ago. It might have been 1 year ago. We're not really sure, but that's just how wonderful Jillian is. Once you meet her, you are her friend. And then Chris and Jillian have a similar story. They actually sat next to each other at Zillow Unlock and became fast friends as well. So here we are, full circle, ready to pick Jillian's brain about all of the good things. Specifically, what we're going to talk about today is her experience and success with collaboration and cross-functional communication, and how when you do that successfully as a marketing leader, how it really lends itself to better marketing performance, and you really shift the view of the marketing department from kind of this support role or maybe cost center to a true contributor to the company. So Jillian, thank you so much for being here. Our old friend. We're so excited.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Ann and Chris. I agree. It's like two old friends here. So I'm excited about this chat and just also hearing both of your thoughts on this topic as well, because I know it's something as marketing leaders, we're constantly living day to day and we're trying to create great environments for our teams. So hopefully this will be topical for anybody listening.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this is kind of the number one question, comment that comes up on a regular basis. You know, I want to hire more people, but it's just seen as a cost. How do I shift my purpose? How do I work kind of across the customer funnel? You know, I think we find a lot of times that within companies, kind of each department almost owns a piece of the customer journey. And so that becomes a really important part of collaboration. So you're at Buckingham Companies, you're the VP of Sales and Marketing. Tell us about your experience in this topic. Like what success have you seen in making this come to life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Buckingham for about 2 years now, just actually past 2 years. And I think that this is actually a skill that I've learned across my entire career. And I feel like I'm finally hitting a sweet spot and confident enough to kind of share what I've learned. But it's definitely not something where anyone's going to listen to this conversation and say, oh, Eureka, that's it. That's what I need to do. You need to really kind of figure out what works in your organization with your team members and, kind of figure out where you can get that all to gel together. So in past positions that I've had, it's been something that I've struggled with, whether it has been in my multifamily world or previously. I've been in multifamily for about 10 years now. 10 years prior to that, I worked on the retail real estate side and commercial real estate. So all very comparative and same struggles. But I think it's figuring out how to create value and how to show that, just like you said, we're not just a cost center. We're not just a department that is a support department and you just call us when you have a problem. We want to be included throughout the entire process. But how do you work with your team so that you're not the one consistently trying to insert yourself?
Yeah.
but they're welcoming you into the conversation. So that's something that I set out in coming into this role and the team members that I work with to make sure that I'm positioning the department in that manner, as well as myself to be a true partner and not necessarily just an afterthought.
I think we're going to have a lot of aha moments after your, I know what you're saying, that like there are so many factors here, right? Like it depends on your organizational structure. It depends on a lot of different factors, but where can we start? Tell us where to start.
Yeah. So I think that you always need to level set. And one of the first things that I did coming into the organization was creating structure around an area that is so relatable to property management and asset management. And it was truly around budgets. I think that that is something that a lot of us struggle with. Really, every company is a little bit different, whether marketing takes that piece and builds that out for all of the properties individually, or you're just contributing, however that looks for you. A lot of times there's a lot of conversation around it. And it's like, you don't need this much. How can we cut this? Or the questions aren't even asked and things are redlined, and you're left with a budget come the new year and you're like, wait a second, I can't even run a campaign with this amount. Like, what are we doing here? Right. So, one of the things I think that really helps is level setting. And it takes a lot of work the first go around, but we built out our entire budgets for each property and then created a guide that goes hand in hand with those budgets. And before it was even, handed off to anybody on property management, and as we worked through the asset management, it went through every single partner we have, what they do. And when I say what they do, it's a paragraph. What do they do? Very high level. Don't get into, all of the KPIs and all of the pieces, but just very high level. What does this product do and why is it important to our stack? General costs that may vary, but at least to kind of get it to a place there. And then, is this a negotiable or non-negotiable?
Yep.
Right. And so we built out this entire guide, and then we also created a glossary because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes our team members are just like not using the right term, and you don't always want to correct it. It's like SEO, SEM, PPC. Yeah. Like, we are definitely an industry of lots of letters. And we want to give our teams confidence to be able to kind of speak to some of these things. So we created an entire glossary of terms. And just that alone, that year, we were able to kind of circumvent a lot of the conversation of, well, I don't understand why this is this and that is that, and doesn't this do the same thing? And I don't understand. So I think arming people with information that can create some self-service, that no one's embarrassed because they're not really sure on what terminology to use. And then also that layer of like, okay, we can have some conversation around these, but like, we're not going to negotiate cost for what it takes to survey our residents, right? Like, so those areas. So I think being able to have everybody have the self-service, have the same information from, one source, and then also to get everybody to speak the same language is so important. So I think that that's something, again, it's a heavy lift up front, but then as you move forward, it's updates year to year, and it kind of just gives everybody that tool. So, I mean, that's the beginnings of where you can start if you don't know where to start.
Jillian, I have to tell you, that's brilliant. And I wish I would have thought of something like that a little bit sooner. I've been doing this a long time as well, and I had never thought about maybe putting it together in that way. I can tell you, I take an approach like you, just for the listeners out there. That was a great tip. Level set. Give some definitions. Everybody needs it. I've done the glossary, just not for marketing. Isn't that funny? I've done it for terms in real estate and investment and things like that, so that my team understands what people are talking about, but not going the other way.
Yeah. Don't let me take credit for it. It was someone else's idea that I heard. Then I
doesn't matter.
Hey, that's awesome. Can you share your resources with me?
You did it. And that's half the battle. It's like, you can come up with the idea, but the other half is actually doing it. Something I like to do when I come into an organization is I like to build trust quickly. Yeah. And by that, if I tell them that I notice something, let's say you're in the process or you're starting that first day or whatever, and I notice this and I want to get it fixed, I go do it. And I get it done and I do it at a high level and I show them what that actually did for us with numbers, KPIs, whatever metric that we're going to use. But it's the same sort of level setting that you're doing. I do want to mention on budgets because I think it's so important. Everybody speaks budget. Yeah. I take my budgets so serious. I spend time on them. They're all separate. I don't have a huge portfolio, so I can get through it. But even when I had larger portfolios, I spent the time, and I'll tell you why. I wanted to go into that meeting ironclad. You can ask me a question. I have the answer. Why am I spending this much at this community? Here's why, for whatever reason. Same idea, just not written out. I think budgets is a great place to start, or finding a project that you know everybody agrees on. Websites, new tech stack, AI, opinion, J Turner, whatever you're using, and really show how you can bring value to improve that. That's amazing.
I think you're right on. And I think that that's where we get caught up a lot of the time, and we're questioned a lot, and we can get in our own way with answering those questions because we go down the road of like being so technical, or either so technical or so vague of, hey, yeah, this is really top of funnel, we can't measure it. Or here's every analytic ever. And they're like, I don't even know what those letters mean.
What are these things?
So you gotta find that sweet spot. How do I get everybody to buy into, what we're doing, show the right KPIs, and get people to understand that it is a fruitful way to spend those dollars. And, something that I've also down that road of budgets, we're turning this into a budget talk, but hey, I'm here for it.
There's other tools. We can get to the other tools, but this is I think this is a really good place to start. And I just want to say one more thing, because if you know your budget and you care and you can show where the money is going, and it's not just some dart that you're throwing because you feel like it, or it's not some number that you made up, you're already bringing trust and buy-in because you can explain it and say, property A is 300 units and I need X, Y, and Z, and property B is 550 units. So I need X, Y, and Z, and here's why,
Mm-hmm. And, what I also tell my team is that there's going to be times when we're going to be asked to cut something and we're going to be passionate about it, whether it's, an SCM budget or whatever that is, especially when it comes to advertising. If things are not going well, then we're going to be asked to spend those dollars anyway. So if this is a pressure test of determining need, then sometimes we have to play that give and take. But at the end of the day, if we need to offset, occupancy and loss there, then we're going to be in that space anyway. So maybe that's a reverse lesson for those other departments, but I think it's important. And I think that building these relationships, especially depending on how you're structured, but with asset management, marketing, having a strong relationship with asset management and building that trust is probably the number one relationship that you need to nurture as a marketer today in multifamily. There's so many other hats we wear. We're focused on training. We're focused on technology. We're focused on just day-to-day leasing and property management. But if you do not have a strong relationship with your asset management team, then you're going to struggle.
Want more from the apartment department? Find us on Substack for episodes and articles delivered straight to your inbox. Yep. I agree with you. And I think that level setting is interesting too. I think what's nice is, I'm trying to think of my own journey. And so sorry, we had to start we started in a different way. We started from a performance standpoint, but I remember that the reporting was so difficult that we had to start at the portfolio level and really just say, in general, here's how we're seeing sources perform across the portfolio. And we started making recommendations there. And luckily now our tools have gotten to a place where we can look at individual properties, individual performance, return on ad spend, all the good things. But you're exactly right that was a good place. Again, we started with performance, and then we started to be able to get ourselves into those budget talks. We did the same thing. We put together individual budgets. We looked at the average kind of renewal rate at each property, how many renewals we thought would come up each month, then how many, of course, would be vacant. So how many of the units would we have to fill? How much budget did we think we would need for each month? I mean, like, it was like
Right.
literally like down to the but then we were able to go back to the budgets. They didn't always get followed, and that was okay, but in a time of need, we were then able to go back to the budget and say, like, well, this is what you're at now for this month, this is what we recommended. And so it made our job easier that way too, and we had recommendations quickly. And so I love, okay, so after budget, then what do we do? Tell us, what's our next step?
Yeah. So I think that if you are able, and I just went through this last week, kind of level setting meetings for our department in partnership with property management and asset management. A lot of times while we touch all of these areas, there's conversations that happen in these rooms that don't necessarily apply to us, but I think it's so important to see the big picture and the struggles there and figuring out how you can make an impact. And, looking at even, I don't know about you, but I don't want to talk about CapEx for, 3 hours. But when we dive into areas like that, and we can realize that, hey, we have a plethora of information that we're tapping into with reviews and feedback that we're getting, and our ability to dive into that and be able to give you analytics around how many people at a property over the past year have given feedback about parking lot lighting and how that can support the project that you want to get in CapEx. And like, no one in the room kind of like thinks about how we can utilize some of that data to help support some of these projects when they only have so much that they're able to do. How do you prioritize that? So I think that being able to at least be in the room and be able to jump in and say, hey, you might not have thought marketing could help you with this, but here's some areas that we can provide data to help you make decisions outside of just advertising, positioning, and all of these areas. And I think, again, that's another way with facilities and operations and asset management to build that value with us. So it's kind of, even when you don't really expect it, you're like, oh, wait a second, let me help.
Yeah, because we see it all. I mean, the thing is, like, as much as people want to say that we're just in this creative thing and we're just spending all this money or whatever, like, we're seeing the customer feedback firsthand. One thing that I always do, I'm just going to throw in some ideas too, as we're brainstorming. When we're talking about a problem community, the very first thing that I tell my regionals or asset management or whoever, what does marketing need to do? Is there anything here that you guys think that I'm missing? Because you're on the ground, your teams are telling you, what can marketing do? So I don't even give them a chance to say, like, marketing needs to do X, Y, and Z. I just ask them, are you happy? Do you think we're getting enough traffic? We'll look at it together. Do you think the traffic is qualified? If it's not, let's figure out why in this week or month or whatever. What's going on? What's the trend? Is there something going on in the submarket? I like to open up the conversation that way to say, like, I'm here. Let's listen. Let's talk about it. And if it's marketing, I raise my hand and say, okay, we got to do better. We got to figure out, maybe where we're advertising isn't working and we need to think about it. Or maybe we can go dive in the demographics and help you guys with some who's actually living there and go get some ideas for employment preferred programs or something like that. If everything else seems to be going well, but that's something I like to do as well. And sometimes like, people will step back and be like, huh, interesting. Or I remember the first time I ever said, well, they come to me, go spend more money. I tell them, do I really need to go spend more money? Like, I don't want to spend more money just to spend it. Like, are these dollars going to go somewhere? Are we answering the phones? Are we doing the things that we need to do to make sure the money is going the right way? And it was kind of shocking when you reverse it on them and just say, like, I don't mind spending money, but I want to also be cognizant of whose money I'm spending.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've kind of structured my department around is we're not only focused on the marketing piece, but we're also focused on the sales process. And while we can kind of come up with overall strategy and advertising and all of those things on how we're going to position the property, at the end of the day, if the property team is not managing those leads appropriately, then it does not matter. So when we created what we call a sales and marketing specialist role, one of the things that I was most focused on was making sure that we were hiring people that were leasing first and marketing second. Like, I didn't need someone who hadn't worked on site, who didn't know the process. And I really needed someone that felt really comfortable diving in and taking a look at the CRM and really diving in and finding out what you could do differently and providing those sales tips. And, we can teach marketing to someone that is willing to learn and has that spark, right? So I think being really focused on how we can create also a sales team to guide the property management folks on how to manage those leads, how to best work them, and not just throw more at them, because again, that's just not going to work. Like, they haven't even worked the leads they have. They're not going to, get to the new ones. So we're paying for nothing. So I think looking at things holistically, and again, it's not just pointing fingers, which we all, that needs to just completely go away across the board. And I think that depends on the organization, but you can't just be like, yeah, I sent you the leads. Good luck. Peace out. Like, not happening. Like, we need to make sure that it can't just be like, oh yeah, you sent me 200 leads and they all sucked. Did they really?
There's a balance there. Being able to dive in together is
we're going together. We're on the same team. We're all want the same thing. Like, marketing is not sitting here like, oh my God, you're at 88%, like not caring. I care. Sometimes I'm bringing stuff to these regionals and telling them like, hey, you've had three applications this week. We have? Yeah. Cause I'm looking at it every day.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think it's not just creative, it's not just strategy, it's like what is truly working, and being able to look at it holistically is a huge part of it. Huge part of it.
So I have a question. So obviously you're lucky. I don't get to control the sales process in my position. I think it's nice that you can have the sales and marketing together. I think early in my career, when I came into marketing, people would always be like, well, marketing and sales are the same. They're really not. Like, they're totally different animals. Mm-hmm. What is the advice to those that can't control it? Obviously, you have that control. You can get the training in that you need. You can kind of control that whole process in the way that you envision it to be, which is awesome. But there's some of us out there that can't. So what can we do to help support that process, even if we can't be directly influencing it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's creating best practices and expectations, and you need to then use your partners to be able to kind of carry that all the way through. So, I want teams that I'm working with to think about the questions that we're going to ask before we even ask them. So when we're going into a property of concern call because you're under a certain occupancy rate and, it's all hands on deck, I want them to be thinking about, hey, how does our queue look? Hey, did we follow up with everybody? Did we send out an email blast to anybody that we haven't, doing all of those things before we even think about it. And if you can get your regionals and VPs to be an extension of what you would want in that sales team, and it takes time, and not everybody is of a marketing mindset. So it's definitely more high touch in some areas, where then you'll have some partners that are like, okay, cool, you guys got it. Like, just let me know what you need. But it's really hard. You got to build those relationships and set the expectation of what you are looking for so that they can jump in. And I think that something that, as marketers, sometimes is a struggle, and I've seen it, is gatekeeping. And, well, I'm not going to necessarily show you how to do this or my technique or whatever, because, then I won't be of value anymore. And I think that, again, that's just, we can't live in that headspace of gatekeeping any of our strategy, because if we all work together and we're getting the results we want, then like, it's making everybody's life easier, and it's making, marketing look good as well as operations.
They all look better. Will you talk about the property of concern call, because that sounds like a really great collaboration, cross-functional opportunity where you all are kind of in an immediate need and working toward a common goal. Who's involved? Who's initiating it? What all are you like? I need to know everything.
Yeah. So I'll actually speak to two different calls that we have, kind of similar, but the property of concern call will be driven by within a VP group, looking at their properties that they are most concerned about. Like, are they trending in the right direction? What does that look like? Sometimes it is not a conversation about marketing at all, but they're taking all of those properties and, actually last week I had one and I walked away. I was actually in the same room as the VP and I walked away and I was like, that just made my heart so happy, because she had properties that were jumping in and providing suggestions, property managers and leasing managers that were providing suggestions to a property that, isn't theirs, they're not involved in. They're like, hey, have you thought about this? This really worked for me. And creating that synergy across their group is so important. So we're not only talking about marketing opportunities, but we're talking about, is it maintenance issues? Are we not turning the apartments in appropriate time? Are we, having issues that are creating, not having product available? So it's kind of an all hands on deck of what are the issues? Let's identify them and get them to where they need to be. Another call that I host every single week is our lease up marketing calls. And we just got to a point mid-year last year where we were like, wow, everything is delivering and we have a million different calls, right? Yeah. And it wasn't creating that cross collaboration. So I was like, okay, that's it. We need to not have at the time 5 calls with different groups, and we need to get everybody on one call. Yep. So every Thursday I host a call with all of the property managers, leasing managers, VPs, regionals, development, construction will call in sometimes. We'll have asset management. And we're going property by property. We're providing data up front that's consistent every single week as a reference of where we stand from a leasing standpoint and how we need to drive that traffic and where the opportunities are. And we're having those conversations, but obviously things come up, but the expectation is for anybody on that call to stay on the entire time, because the same cross collaboration is happening where, we get to the end of the call and we're on the last property and we're like, hey, property manager from who was first up, didn't you experience this? Tell us again how you handled this. So being the catalyst for cross collaboration, especially outside of even the silos in property management of, hey, I report to this regional, this VP, this whoever, kind of breaking that down across those groups as well. And I think, again, marketing being that catalyst to be able to do that is so important. I was just saying the other day how oftentimes, I'm sure you both experience it as well, we're getting asked questions that have nothing to do with marketing because we're a safe space.
Yes.
And, it's like, hey, I'm not really sure where I get a screwdriver. And I was like, cool, I don't know where to get the screwdriver either, but I can point you in the right direction, right? So I don't know why I said screwdriver, but
Believe
we get the yes, but you're right, because you're showing that you're willing to help. You're building those relationships. There's consistent communication, no judgment, like the Planet Fitness, judgment-free zone on
right. I did that on my leasing calls. We had a checklist and we just went through it every week with everybody was on a call, and I'm not in lease up now. They're new development. This is a couple firms ago, but it really helped when construction was there, asset management was there, marketing was there, the heads of, and we would just kind of go through it. Have we done this? Have we done that? Did we do this? But on the property of concern, there is something about that, because I've done these my whole career. Lately, the ideas coming out of the teams have just been so brilliant. And I'll share one. It's kind of like we were on a pod and we're talking, what's the most thing searched on apartments.com? It's air conditioning or whatever, right? It's so wow, that's so simple, but it matters. But we have a couple properties that don't have washer dryer. Okay. We have connections. Yeah. But something that's come out of these calls and talking to people and things that we've done in the past How about just giving them a fun laundry gift when they lease the apartment? So maybe $50 on a card to give them a month's worth of laundry, give them some detergent, things like that. That is built in now to that apartment. And Property A was doing it. They had a ton of success. They got to they leased the units that they couldn't lease before because they had this gift. But these cross-functional calls, we were able to share that with others, and now everybody is doing it. It's same with moving gifts. I mean, I think we try to get outside the box. Or like one of our regionals had a great idea: pick it, lease it, pick it, kind of thing. Yeah. And you can pick. We've all done spin the wheel or gift card or whatever. But the way that she's promoting it with her teams, it's like you're giving them the ability to pick something, whether it's an air fryer or smart home or whatever. I mean, we have like a whole list of things, but this is all because of these cross-functional meetings to make it better. And we don't have to give the farm away. We're even thinking about doing like the first 50 that sign a lease. We have some student properties, you'll get X gift as part of, and their gifts are going to be awesome because they're younger, it's a younger generation. It's what they want. It's not just $500 off or, So like having those calls gets us to these outside the box ideas to be different.
Yeah, I so agree. And I think sometimes we get in our own way, right? Like, we're a bunch of 40-year-olds sitting in a room talking about what a college kid wants as a gift for a move-in gift. Like the other day it was right before the holidays. My stepson was here and I was like, hey, can you come up to my office? I'm on a call with asset management and operations. I need some ideas. And comes and he's like, what am I getting into? I'm like, okay, you just graduated from college. What are the things you want? And he just like spouted them off. And I was like, here we go. Focus group done.
Yeah. Buy those. Let's go next.
Buy those. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, but I think it's so important. And, I know there's so many exciting things to talk about right now in multifamily, and you can go down the road of AI and all of these things. But like, I think this is an important topic because it's just how do we function day to day? It's not the new shiny thing. It's not the, big change in multifamily. This is like back to basics. And this is in a time right now where we might get asked to cut a lot of budgets, or we might get pressure because, leasing velocity isn't what it was a year ago. Creating the value and the partnership is so, so, so important.
No, I agree with you. And then you do get to test out the shiny things because you have the trust. I mean, I can think of several things that have started because we had an RVP or property manager who trusted us. And we were like, we want to try this thing. So-and-so will let us because we have, and I mean, it's huge. And I think that there is kind of talk right now of like, you have to have a strong foundation. And a lot of times going back and strengthening the foundation is innovative. Because if you neglect it, then all of a sudden you're not paying attention to how is the funnel performing. And I mean, all of like you're saying, like the core fundamentals that make the business. I mean, the foundation of the business is never going to change. The financials that we look at, the KPIs that we look at are always going to be the same. So I think you're doing the right thing. So you have calls, you do budgets. What are some other like collaboration points that you've found that are successful?
Yeah, I think it also not only creating that at the top, but finding that space in the middle as well with our team members and making sure that there's that same exact level of communication and collaboration in those middle and lower levels as well. And again, it's speaking the same language, being able to have those resources for everyone, and creating consistency in the approach so that it's not necessarily like, oh, well, so-and-so said we should do it this way, but that's not what I'm hearing here. And I actually wrote this down because I was like, I was listening to a book. I can't even remember what it was, but I wrote this down a long time ago and I've kind of like really gone back to it. And it's alignment turns opinions into decisions. So, I mean, you can have a million opinions if you do not necessarily know what you're talking about or you're not aligned in those spaces. It's just going to be a lot of noise. If everybody is already aligned, then you can make decisions really quickly. And I think that not only happens at the top, it happens at every single level, and being able to make sure that there's consistency and clarity.
Yeah.
Whether it's everybody working from the same numbers or, giving the same explanation for how something works is so, so, so key. It's like creating that united message.
Yeah, you're right, because we've had that happen before where like a question comes in and there's misalignment on understanding straight from the start, and it takes like 2, 3, 4 emails to clear it up, and then everyone's frustrated. We were talking about that today too, so I'd be interested in your opinion. We were talking about like at some point there has to be like a point where the email is not effective anymore. Like we have to have an internal like, okay, we've emailed about this 3 times. It's phone call time. Or I mean, I'm making up that rule, but like I think that a lot of misalignment inadvertently comes from email as our primary communication tool.
Yep. Yep. So it's funny because I always tell people, like, please don't just call people on Teams. Like, don't just push the button. Be like, call, I have a question. Like, make sure you're creating that relationship so they want to answer that call when it comes through. But there is no reason why, if you are going back with someone back and forth, because it can really just get lost in the words.
Yes.
Like, we have the means to so easily, whether it's Teams or Zoom, or whatever, call somebody quickly and say, hey, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. This is what I'm saying? Is this what you're saying? Like, let's just settle this. Communication is just so underrated.
I agree. Screen share, probably my favorite thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like,
agreed.
Let me show you what that's like. I think I'm realizing that more and more, that the email is inadvertent. Again, it's not on purpose, but especially in companies where we're so we're scattered around states, or we have whatever the case may be. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
A tool that we've been utilizing a lot more, and it's actually kind of coming full circle for us now, is Scribe. Have you guys ever used Scribe? Yeah. Yep. So we're just, anytime that we're kind of getting one of those like process questions, we're creating a Scribe for it and we're putting it in our arsenal. And, we're kind of getting to that sweet spot of using it now. Oh, we have a Scribe for that. Oh, we have a Scribe for that.
Yeah.
And it's, kind of helping that, because a lot of people are just moving too fast, or they're not at their desk, or, so many of us are traveling or going property to property, or just like you said, in your situation, like, I don't live in the same state where my company is.
Right.
So, I can't just walk over 3 cubes every day. I can when I'm in the office, but
Right.
You need to be able to make sure that you're still able to meet those needs and have those resources consistently. And, sometimes we don't have time to jump on a call. So how can you find, that space too?
I think that's a good point too. Something else I've been thinking about lately, and maybe you have a solution, is, we're talking a lot about individual properties, right? Like, so what we were talking about today is like, we have these issues. Issues is not the right word. Misunderstandings, roadblocks, whatever the case, but it's happening at one property. But in theory, you could kind of back up and put it almost as like, this happened because something is fundamentally broken, or there isn't a chain of command, or there isn't a escalation process, or something to that. So like, how do you take like things that come up at individual properties and kind of tie them into portfolio wide or company opportunities? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that you almost get some real life examples out of these situations. And that's where, from a leadership opportunity, when you're in those planning conversations and those opportunities of where we can do better, I think a lot of times we're all so very focused on like, what are our wins this week, month, year? What are we doing great? But being able to find the areas of opportunity and being able to talk about them honestly is probably more powerful than listing your wins all the time. So I think that there's also that trust factor too. It can't be the finger pointing situation, but it's like, this is what I encountered. This is how we could have avoided this.
Yeah.
And like, what's your feedback on how we could make this better? And I think it's just kind of like, listen, some of this stuff is like therapy, right?
It is. And I mean, I think it's easy to get like emotionally involved too, but I always try and say like, what is the business problem here? What
Yeah.
is the business issue preventing something from moving forward?
Yeah.
And so that's what I was thinking about today. Like I said, like, okay, we were having a problem at one property. So then how do I take that and say, if we get into a situation like this again for any property, what do we do? Who does it go to? Who's the next step of do you know what it's so
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an interesting, and it's an opportunity for like you're saying, cross collaboration, because you're identifying, you're using the specific examples, but you're ultimately saying like there's something broken in the process and we want to fix it.
And when some of those things are broken, I think it's okay to say, like, people will come at you quick and fast and say, oh, I need XYZ, and you'll have, a solve for it. And then sometimes, like, you literally have to say, time out, no. Here's what we're not doing. And, when we look at it from the full business case and what's best for our business, like, you saying no is powerful. There isn't a marketing solution for this because that is not the root of the problem. Here's why I can help you focus on where the root of the problem is. And I think marketing earns a seat at the table by being able to really dive into those requests and be able to, protect the outcome and not just jump at the, ask. You can jump all day. You can get a call from someone and be like, oh, we need to increase our apartments. Okay, hold on. Let me, that's
easy.
That's easy. And, if it was that easy, everybody would do it.
Chris, what do you think?
That's the point, because when you have a seat at the table, it's not always just go spend or what. You can actually talk what the root of the problem is. Yeah. And it's not always marketing. And quite frankly, sometimes it is price. And sometimes we do have to do the concession or increase it, decrease it, whatever, because the submarket is doing what the submarket is doing. We are not out there making these decisions. The market is making these decisions. But I just think if you come into these meetings prepared, or you come into conversations prepared and you've built trust, then you can just have an honest conversation. And sometimes it is marketing. I learned something about a property. I've been here for almost 2 years. I learned something about a property I didn't know 2 weeks ago, and I was dumbfounded. And I said, marketing gets an F on this because we haven't been promoting it hard enough. But now I'm promoting it. I mean, we're not perfect. We have to be able to admit to our mistakes.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to, but you just need to be able to talk to them. And I think, Anne, this goes back to something that me and you aligned on very early on in our friendship, was KPIs and how we can use KPIs to open up these silos. And when you can speak to KPIs and you know what the numbers are, sometimes I feel like I know the numbers the best in the company of where we're trending, where we're occupied, what our traffic is, because I'm there and I'm ready to speak about it. And if I can speak to the numbers, then everything else, all the walls get broken down.
Yeah.
Gone are the days of...
by the way. Like, that's the thing. Like, if we can deliver on our controllables, like if we need some extra signage, if we need a balloon, I love balloons, by the way. But if you need some extra signage,
I have to tell you a funny story.
But like, we actually get it done for our teams in a timely manner, and it shows up and they get what we told them that we're going to get them, like the tchotchke marketing stuff. But we only have one chance to make a good first impression, right, lady? Like, whether that's digital or in person, you only get that one shot. And so we just have to deliver on the things that we can control.
Yeah.
Tell us your funny story.
I've created a reputation because I just refuse to put a waving arm guy at a property. I refuse to do it. Like that, we're not selling cars, we're selling homes, we're selling a lifestyle. I'm not putting a waving arm guy out any. So one of my dear coworkers from asset management actually purchased me a desk waving arm guy, which
just to tease and taunt you.
Just to tease and taunt me. It was my birthday like a week ago, and I got multiple cards, like messages, gifts of waving arm men. Everybody just thinks it's the most hilarious thing, and I just have this like waving arm. I hate them. I literally hate them. People will be driving by places and send me pictures.
I'm not going to put that in front of my property. I think I can go there, but there are some of the tchotchke things that, and I started marketing on signage way back in the day, 20 years ago. So like, I have this affinity for signage. I do like the vinyl balloons, and I do think they pop, and I like to change them out. And I might be alone in that, and I don't care. I'll live on that island. I'll buy all the stock. If you guys don't want your stock, give it to me. I'll buy more real estate. But again, it's just about the control of the controller. Yeah. Maybe I'll just waiting an arm guy for one of my properties now and send it to you.
And just to send her
just to do it. Yeah. I'll do it in one of my student ones. They'll probably find it's funny. Put out some fun music or pop music to go along with it.
Put it in like a college, whatever college is, college outfit, the logo.
Exactly. That'd be hilarious. I have a Texas I.M. property.
Someone I work with is going to listen to this, and they're going to call me and say, I have this great idea. At our student property, put the t-shirt on the waving arm guy. And I'm going to go, Ian and Chris.
You're welcome.
Listeners
is signed already.
Or we just get the emails now of anybody using waving arm guys. Can we just get them? We're going to forward them on to Jillian, and that's going to be like, I want to see it out there in the wild.
Oh my gosh. I think, so I know we're having fun, but I think the dashboards are really, and again, the tools now are getting a lot. That has been a major source of alignment for us, is looking at the same data together, setting benchmarks. So, I mean, I think that that's a really easy way to align. Twofold. One, understanding what dashboards our on-site teams, managers, regional managers are looking at on a regular basis, and we need to be fluent in those dashboards as well. And then second, having marketing dashboards that we can look at together. One of my favorite dashboards to look at is the leasing funnel dashboard with a team when we're having a talk about performance, because you can very easily see, here's what's working, here's what isn't, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, I think that's a huge opportunity, and it's a good way for marketing to flex their knowledge beyond marketing, right? Yeah. Again, like you said, to be speaking the same language is hugely important. So is there anything else, any other things that you have found successful? I think we're almost out of time, which I'm so sad. I'm like,
I know, this went so quickly. Past your old friends.
I know, like 3 hours later, like it should be like that. But what are, if you were to leave us with any final things, what would you say to the audience?
Yeah, I think, again, going back to basics, finding where you can create relationships and be able to create trust is only going to help you in the future. So, credibility compounds, and it creates transparency, it creates collaboration. It's kind of the secret sauce. So hopefully people can kind of take that and figure out how it fits within their own organization, their own role. You don't need to be the leader of a department. Everybody can do this in their role and figure out how to make it work. But relationships across the board are just the most important piece of our job.
I love it. Chris, any final thoughts?
Is Google dying or what? You got to answer the question that we asked everybody.
Do you know? Wait, I want to do my new question. My new question is...
No, you don't get a new question.
I have a question now. I have a new question. The ChatGPT. If you were to search for an apartment in ChatGPT, what would you put in? That's my new... I shifted.
Okay. Well,
Google lives on forever, just so you know. That's the deal. But
Okay. Well, to answer your question, Chris, I don't think it's dead. I think it's evolving. And I think that, first of all, if I am going to ChatGPT and typing in how I want to find an apartment or whatever that is not the same way as our prospect is searching. And you always need to keep that in mind. That's one of those things. I'm sure we've all had the conversation with someone sitting in a meeting room saying, hey, I'm Googling this property that's 500 miles away and I don't understand why it's not coming up in the results, right? So I also have to be mindful if I'm typing into ChatGPT in my account that is all about marketing apartments, my results are very different than the person that is searching. So let's take that out of there right away, right? Like, and
Thank you.
when I need to level set these things again, like I go to my family and I go, how would you search for this? And they like, and I'm like, okay, because we have blinders. Like, let's be real. We shouldn't be doing any of that and thinking that's what real results are, right?
I love it. That's actually an aha moment. And let's cut that out and like really highlight it, because it's true. We do have our own biases. Yes. And we can't sit on our desktops and think that that's the experience. We have to remember, go look at your phone. That's what everybody is using. You can't live on a desktop. You got to live on a phone when you're looking at your website.
Mobile experience.
All of it.
Oh, you guys.
And I know we know that. I know we talk about it, but do we live it? Are we actually checking our websites on our phone? Like my team is now telling me so.
My 3 screens, like, put them all side by side.
Like a mad scientist. Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than going to one of your websites on a mobile phone and realizing like you can't see the text on the menu because you've like forgot to change it. I mean, like you're saying, Chris, like really, like, oh, it looks beautiful on the desktop, and then you are like, well, why isn't it converting? Oh, because no one can find a link on my menu. Like,
yeah, well, we get lost in the minutia of things, and and again, that goes back to, you'll have someone from one of these departments call you and be like, why don't you have XYZ on here? And you're like, yeah, I do. And you're like, I don't. Like, what happened? And we're moving too fast. We're doing it too many times. And those fresh eyes are so important. So, yeah.
Awesome. Great conversation.
This was so wonderful. Jillian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we can't wait for part 2, 3, 4, 5. Can't wait to see you soon at a conference or out and about.
All the things.
Yeah. Cincinnati, when you come to Cincinnati, you actually have to tell me that you're going to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Next time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to our listeners. And until next time, this has been the Apartment Department.